Hey, welcome back to the Morning Sam, Morning Ralph podcast. I'm Paul Molinari with Popcorn, and today we've got a really cool guest. It's Rahul Musunuri, the CEO of Khumbu. Integrations are so critically important now to our restaurant ecosystems. And if you can think of a restaurant as a body, and maybe the point of sale is the heart, and the back office might be the brain, and you have your motor functions with your delivery systems and your order management systems. Well, when you think about integrations, you can almost think of like the blood through the veins that makes it all work, or in some ways, maybe even the central nervous system. It's what powers these things to work together in synchronicity and in unison. It's kind of, it's really like the life's blood of a restaurant. It has to happen. Plays a very critical role. So I'm super excited today to have Raul here because he's working with tons of restaurants. I think they're doing about 50, what they have, like over 50,000 restaurants now, processing millions of orders every single month. It's really something to behold. So let's solve some integration problems today. This is Morning Sam, Morning Ralph.
Morning Sam, Morning Ralph, make it pop, make it pop, make it pop.
Raul, welcome to the show. It's awesome to have you here, man.
Appreciate it, Paul. And that was a great intro. So appreciate that. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited to jump in and start talking integrations. I mean, that's what we live and dream every day. So at Khumbu. So I'm certainly passionate about this topic. Excited to be here and talk through it.
Before we get into the integration, so let's lighten it up a little, because this could be a little bit of a heavy topic for some people, but we're going to make it fun and interesting and educational. But before we even start, Khumbu. Now, the research now it's inspired by Mount Everest, right?
Almost. I mean, yes. So Khumbu is this valley in Nepal where Mount Everest is. The reason I call the company that is because the culture in that region is basically all geared towards customer service, right? Hospitality. It's folks, that mostly go there for hiking, for mountaineering, and the entire economy and people really truly go that extra mile with their customers. And that's the same culture I wanted to bring into my company. And that's the reason I named it Khumbu.
I love that. It's kind of like a Sherpa in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Sherpaing these, both these technology partners and restaurants, together, making that connection so that they can scale the summit.
Exactly.
That's really cool. All right. So, how did you get into this role? I mean, what inspired you to start Khumbu? What were the early days like? Take me through the beginning parts of your journey.
Yeah. So we started way back in the day as a technology service company, right? Just a really custom dev shop. And we were wanting to use our skills to solve some complex problems. And we helped several companies during those initial days. It wasn't until later during that journey that we happened to stumble into restaurant tech and the whole integration space for restaurants. So we were helping a couple of large enterprises with their integrations to POS systems, and really saw firsthand how fragmented and complex the entire tech landscape was, and really still is in this industry.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are some really great tools being built every year. I mean, some really cool new POS systems, some, of course, you have the delivery platforms, you have really cool loyalty platforms, you have CDP, GDP, all of that. But the problem we still see to this day is that a lot of these systems don't really work together as well as we think they could. So that really means a lot of manual work, a lot of frustrated teams, and of course, missed revenue opportunities.
So what were some of the challenges that you saw earlier on? I mean, you have all of these disparate systems. So your team is you're manually bringing these things together. What were some of the big challenges?
Yeah. So what we saw was, again, because a lot of this tech had evolved over time, there were systems that every system followed its own standard, right? There is no real industry standard that we see even to this day where these systems can talk to each other cleanly. So like you said, Paul, a lot of disparate systems, a lot of disparate technologies, very different API standards. Some legacy systems to this day don't really have APIs, so there's still, a lot of file exchanges. So it's very diverse in terms of how they expose the data, and that's really the big challenge, that we have to this day, and that's what we're trying to solve.
Take me through a little bit about how Khumbu is structured. I mean, your clients are both technology vendors and the restaurants, right? So,
Yes.
how are you making those connections? Are restaurants coming to you and asking you to work with their technology vendors? And is it vice versa, where technology vendors are asking to be? Explain to me that dynamic. Where does Khumbu kind of fit in that sphere?
So it's all of the above. So really, integrations are required both by technology vendors, but also, of course, brands, right? So we work with large brands to help them with their online ordering integrations into their POS systems.
Okay.
We also work with technology vendors, of course, to do integrations into POS or vice versa, right? So we pull data from disparate systems and push it to some of these technology platforms. So we're helping, both sides of the equation. We're just sitting in the middle, sort of that being that, like you described it, right? So we are the heart of the system, trying to make these connections, and data flow through this entire ecosystem.
So, I'm trying to understand. So, your role in this, are you guys operating as sort of the can do technology horsepower, the brains behind the people that have the skills and abilities to make these connections? Or are you developing specific technologies that make these connections fuse?
Okay, so I mean, we at this point, or at least up until this point, we have been focused on the sort of as a short-term goal is making these technologies talk to each other.
Mhm.
So this year, our focus is going to be working with industry bodies and trying to drive some of those standardizations with data and APIs. Um,
Okay,
so this year we'll be part of RTN. So we'll be working with that industry
great.
body, and also any other. There's other ones as well, of course. Which we'll be working with all of them to help sort of drive this change towards standardization in this industry. The challenge remains to this day. I mean, a lot of new technologies, have come up. The evolution continues, of course, with AI. And we will see a lot of cool, interesting stuff coming up, this year, just like we did see last year. But all of these still have to talk to each other, and they all still to this day face that problem, right?
That's right. That's first of all, that's fantastic. Being an RTM member and working on the standardization for restaurants is a huge advantage, really a huge service, I should say, for the industry. So I'm sure Robert and Abigail are really excited that you're joining RTN. And no doubt will bring some fresh perspective and more talent to that standardization. You know, One of the things that, with all of these emerging technologies in our restaurant industry, it's the seamless integration. Everybody talks about seamless integration. Um, why is seamless integration so important for success in a restaurant? I mean, I think of it sometimes as like a chain. You have a chain, and each link is might be a technology, and it's your integration. You're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Exactly. Right. I mean, see, there's so many new technologies, but for a restaurant, at the end of the day, the operator really they want to focus on the guest experiences, right?
Mhm.
Um, they don't really want to do IT support. So we have seen and heard from brands that have purchased technologies with the intention that these technologies will actually help sort of drive a better guest experience. But because of a lack of integrations, a lot of these are just really sitting on the shelf. So seamless integrations, I mean, it needs to be seamless because the operator does not, should not have to worry about things breaking, and as a result, their guests having to suffer because something doesn't work like it's supposed to. So
Right.
what we're trying to do is really sit in the background and make that seamless so that whatever technologies, I mean, again, like I said, there's some really cool stuff out there. And end of the day, all of that has to work, and service the operator and the guest. So that's where I think Khumbu comes in and helps make those connections, and does so seamlessly so that technology just works and the guest
Right.
has a great experience. Operator doesn't have to spend any time, effort, money into making this tech work. We'll do that for them.
I love that. So in that way, I guess you're part of like the rollout process. Are you part of the rollout in the sense? So give me an example of a tech that you may have recently integrated with a restaurant group, and what was your role in that?
Yeah, I mean, without really taking names, but we are now helping a large brand in the international market
Mhm.
basically roll out their sort of in-house digital experiences that they built, with their own engineering teams into different international markets. So, I mean, that's innovations has been a huge blocker for them. But once we start to work with them and we start to help with integrations, they were able to take those digital ordering experiences and then quickly roll that out to multiple international markets. So we onboarded 19 as of today international markets for them. And they were able to do that quickly because there's a good integration partner that's able to really do that work for them so that they can then focus on those digital platforms, the front end customer facing digital platforms, whereas the back end sort of data flows, we're taking care of that for them.
Oh, wild. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, so you're in the mix. You're right there making these things happen. So I'm assuming that you have for each one of these projects, you have a project manager, somebody's overseeing this. Like, are you beholden to the timelines, or are you working in connection with the tech vendor? I mean, what's your role in the rollout?
Yeah, I mean, we are beholden certainly to timelines, when there are. Sometimes, tech vendors come to us because they feel, they see that they're losing opportunities because they don't have integrations.
Right.
In that case, there's not necessarily a fixed deadline as such, but it's really just continuous missed opportunities that they've experienced, and now they realize I need integrations to really start winning business. So they come to us, we help them build those integrations, and then now they can go after, brands and hopefully, grow their business.
I love that. And with that, yeah, you're basically in a lot of ways an enabler of
Exactly.
these technology vendors. Speaking of enabling, one of the things that I was thinking about, yeah, I mentioned it in the introduction. You guys are helping or working with over 50,000 restaurants now, which is not a small number, all over the world. But, what have been some of the key enablers that's driving this kind of scale?
I mean, I would maybe get it out of three sort of key factors, right?
Yeah.
The first one is just industry expertise. So we don't just build innovations, but we also try to understand restaurant operations. So this allows us to, so when we go build innovations at that point, right, that allows us to build those integrations with a clear understanding of how it will be used downstream and how it might impact operations. So just having that deep industry expertise helps us build just better integrations.
Yeah.
The second thing is our platform. So we really spent some time engineering a really robust and adaptable platform. I say robust because end of the day, when we build these integrations, the platform has to be up with a very high degree of reliability, right? So
Hmm.
once we build the integration, that becomes a really critical part of the operation. So if our system goes down, then that's going to impact not just the restaurant, but the end user and whoever else the technology vendor may be. So robust and then adaptable because of the variety of sort of APIs and data formats that we see. So we have to be able to adapt to all of the disparate systems and formats that we see out there. So I would say that's the second factor, a robust and adaptable platform.
Right.
And the third thing is really just having really strong vendor relationships. So we work with some major POS providers. We work with third-party delivery apps. We work with some guest data platforms. And now we're also starting to work with these really up-and-coming AI-driven solutions. So I would say I would really get it down to these three key factors, right? So industry expertise,
Right.
a really robust, adaptable platform, and strong partnerships.
Yeah. And I think that when you think about, how, how does Khumbu kind of differentiate itself, in a crowded restaurant tech market? There aren't too many players out there, I think, that have that combination of those three elements that, when combined, can really make for a pretty darn impactful integration solution. That's fantastic. You guys are, for all intents and purposes, starting up. I mean, you've hit the ground running. You're kind of running on fire here, which is really wonderful. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about this later as to how people can find you, but you're going to be inside of RTN Startup Alley. And if I'm not mistaken, Startup Alley is limited to, companies that have been around for 3 years or less. So congratulations again, Rahul. Really some
Thanks.
impressive
Yes.
stuff.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks so much, Paul.
Yeah, it really is. Because, back in my life, even before Popcorn, thinking about spending 8-9 years at Crunch Time and the role that that integrations played in making, a massive back office like Crunch Time work. Integrations were absolutely critical. And I just remember that the engineers, just pulling their hair out, being like, the idea of getting integrated integrations with all of these different point of sale companies, with the delivery companies, with in some ways, with broadliners, accounting systems, it's kind of this never ending thing. And what makes it even more complex, and I think is actually a good segue to this next topic I want to cover, is how do you deal with all of these emerging technologies like AI? How are you working AI into these solutions? Or, how does that work?
See, AI is only as good as the data it has access to. And again, that's where integrations are critical. So at Khumbu, we can help brands connect with these AI-driven tools. There's some really smart people working on these AI agents, right? So I was just recently introduced to a couple of guys that are building some AI agents, and both have PhDs from MIT and Cornell. So super sharp guys. But so we can help these brands connect to these really smart AI-driven tools. And that could be personalized marketing automation, it could be predictive order management, dynamic pricing. I know that's not very popular, but
It's
maybe
not very
someday.
popular until they all realize they're already doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Philosophically, I should say, anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, so I think, so they need data, and to get data, they need integrations, and that's where Khumbu can really play a big role. I mean, it could be a restaurant that's implementing some sort of an AI-powered upsell recommendations, right? That factors in real-time inventory and maybe customer order history. So that means, we have to connect the AI agents to a POS system, to a backend inventory system, maybe a CDP. And the key to making all of these AI insights actionable across, you have to make it actionable across a bunch of different touch points, right? So you have to make it actionable against menu displays, ordering systems, loyalty programs. And that's the only way these AI agents can actually drive some real business value. So just there, you can see how critical integrations are for any AI system. So it's not just a cool tech for sure, but does nothing by itself until it's able to talk to all these different
That's right.
systems within the tech stack.
This whole concept of agentic AI is wonderful, and everybody thinks, oh, well, that's going to be the next SaaS, or it's going to replace SaaS. But you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, with agentic AI, goes back to the link in the chain. right? It only works
Right.
as well as how well these things talk with one another, because they're essentially doing tasks on your behalf, but all of these things need to be connected. They need, right? And
Exactly.
so again, it comes back to, the blood going through the veins of the restaurant body. It's integrations. It's how this stuff flows together to make it all work. And so along those lines, are you guys getting into the agentic AI game? I mean, is that something that you're thinking about, perhaps even making your own solutions, or are you going to stick to the integration side of things?
No, I think, see, we want to stick to what we do really well. I mean, you said it best earlier, Paul, where you said we are an enabler.
Yeah.
There's some really smart people working on agentic AIs. So we want them to be successful, and we want them to help brands be successful. But neither of that will happen unless there's a Khumbu sitting in the middle helping them to talk to each other. And we're good at that. So we want to stay focused on that. And hopefully, I mean, this year I'm very excited, especially going to Mertech next month in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited to see all these different AI companies that I'm hoping will show up and make some good presentations. But yeah, there's some cool stuff happening. We're not trying to build those point solutions. We are focused on having them talk to each other, and then making an impact for a positive impact for operators and of course for customers.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're going to make a splash there, because once the smoke clears and everybody gets over how all of these wonderful AI solutions are going to help one another, and agentic AI is going to just be this miracle thing. When the smoke clears, they're all going to realize that it's all going to take the integrations, and someone has to have the technical and brain horsepower, frankly, to make it all work. Um, you know, let's talk for a second about restaurant tech in general. I mean, what do you think? I'm really curious to know, Raul, what you think, like the big restaurant tech that might dominate, 3 to 5 years of a lifetime, but what do you see down the road as being sort of the next big thing, or a big thing?
Yeah, I think, see, just from me speaking to a bunch of vendors and of course even brands,
Yeah.
I can't say that there's going to be one single tech that dominates. I mean, of course, AI is in everybody's minds,
Right.
but I can see maybe three that I think sort of stand out as trends going into the next 3 to 5 years. One is, we talked about AI. So just this AI driven automation, again, from predictive ordering to sort of chatbot driven customer support, um, all the different things AI can do to streamline operations, enhance, customer guest experiences. So definitely AI for sure. Um, the other thing I sort of am starting to see is this shift towards first party ordering. I think I feel brands are starting to realize that they need to own their customer relationships, right?
Mm.
Instead of relying on third party delivery marketplaces. So I can see a lot of that happening as well. So that's the second thing. I think the third thing is having these seamless omni-channel experiences. So the ability for an operator to track a unified sort of customer record across multiple channels, in store, online, mobile interactions. So having that sort of unified omni-channel experience for guests. So that's the sort of the third trend that I'm seeing. So again, to recap, a lot of AI-driven automation, uh, this shift towards first-party ordering, and then just having this sort of omni-channel, sort of seamless omni-channel experiences for guests.
Yeah, let's talk about, first party ordering for a second. That's a fascinating uh, concept that I think is, quite old school. First party ordering was, used to be the pizza place down the street, right? You call up somebody got in their car, sent you the pizza. When you talk about first party ordering and delivery, are you talking about owning, having like a closed loop system? Like literally, KFC has the trucks, has the employees, the cars, how does, explain to me, what do you mean
I
by
don't
that?
think so. I don't think so. I mean, I think having that operation is a major capital expenditure for restaurants, right?
Right.
So I know pizzas used to have it, but it requires staffing, it requires cars,
Right.
insurance, you name it. But I think uh, that part of the operation, I think, is done really well by these third-party delivery services, right? Your
Yeah.
DoorDashers and Uber Eats and all of that. So when I talk about first-party ordering, I mean orders coming directly within the restaurant's mobile apps, of maybe phones, website, all of that. But then delivery is still happening through some of these delivery service
Okay.
providers.
Yeah. That last mile, the third party delivery and last mile stuff. Yeah. So you think that more restaurants are going to own their own apps, probably tied into their own loyalty systems. Uh,
Yeah.
right. So that they're going to take more ownership of their tech. You know,
Yeah, I think that allows them to do two things. One, lets them have a direct relationship with their customers. But two, lets them control what the guest experience is.
yeah.
Right. So, they get to build their own digital apps and experiences for their customers and have the customer experience, the restaurant the way the restaurant would like their customers to experience it.
Right.
So they kind
So
of lose that with third party, marketplaces.
I totally get it. So let's talk about that marketing aspect for a minute here, because, when you talk about, you have restaurants, you have traditional technology vendors that might be more operational in nature. And then you have, marketing tech. MarTech is a big part of the tech stack nowadays too. You have loyalty systems, CDPs, CRMs, all of that stuff. Is that a part of the game that you're also playing in?
Yes, yeah. So we do actually help a really large GDP system, without actually naming names, but well, we help them with their integrations too. So we pull data from a whole bunch of different systems, not just POS, sales data, but also customer data, reservations, data, loyalty data. So we pull data from a whole bunch of different systems and then push it to the GDP.
Yeah. Let's That's, so between three buckets of helping restaurants, helping traditional tech vendors, helping marketing tech, you guys definitely have your hands full. But let's go back to Khumbu and your company. And, you know, with your fingers in so many different pies, I'm sure you're giving your team a tremendous amount of opportunity to work with some of the greatest tech and some of the most amazing. Certain. Tell me a little bit about your team and your leadership style, and what it's like working at Kumbu, and give us a lowdown on that.
Yeah, see, we have a very simple philosophy in the company. Um, we stay customer obsessed, and we have bias toward action. And a lot of that really comes back from the founding of the company, right? So I talked about the name and why I called it that. So we really carry that philosophy all the way from the top to bottom of the company. I shouldn't even say top to bottom. I'd say left to right because we don't really have much of a hierarchy either in the company.
God bless.
And yeah, the culture is basically just that, right? Stay customer obsessed, biased toward action, and we encourage our team to deeply understand restaurant operations and what their challenges are,
Right.
and then experiment with solutions. So we try, from developers to our customer support teams, we encourage them to learn, come back with some ideas, help identify issues that the customers may be facing and how Kumbu might be able to help solve them. So it's that culture of constant learning and experimenting and innovating solutions as long as they're helping the end customer, right? For us, the customer is, of course, the brands or the technology vendors.
Right. Right. No, that's great. And like I was saying, there's doesn't seem to be a shortage of opportunity to learn the newest stuff. Working at Khumbu, you're really kind of, at the center of truly understanding what it is the brands need, what it is the
Right.
technology vendors need or provide, and being in the middle of that, shepherding them both up, up to the summit. Uh, what's yeah. So what's next for you guys? I mean, what are you going to do? Tell me about some exciting developments that you might have.
I mean, we are continuing to focus on what we think we do best. So we're really doubling down on helping restaurant brands unlock the full potential of their tech investments. I mentioned I've heard brands, that have purchased tech, 2, 3 years ago, and it's just really sitting on their shelves. So our mission is to make these integrations seamless, and help, these brands unlock the potential of all of their investments, that they made. So a big focus, of course, is also, for us to expand our AI-driven innovations, right, and deepening partnerships with major POS and third-party platforms. Um, the other thing we're also focused on this year, we have actually been focused on this since last year, but we'll continue to stay focused this year, is the international market. So we're seeing a lot of growth and a lot of demand in international markets. And restaurants are facing the same challenges that we've helped solve several brands in North America. So our goal is to be the global leader in restaurant integration technologies, and ensure that no operator has to struggle with this problem of disconnected systems. Right? I mean, that's been a struggle for years, and we're hoping
Absolutely.
we can come in and help solve it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is great. So, you know, let's talk about how people can find you. So where, I know you're going to Mertech in a couple of weeks. I'm certainly going to see you there. Hopefully we can grab a bite too. That'd be great. But where can people find you online? Can we find you on LinkedIn? Where, give us the URL, plug Khumbu.
Yeah, it's khumbu.com. It's khumbu.com. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, find the company on LinkedIn as well. And whoever's listening to this podcast, sure they'll find us on LinkedIn and other places. But yeah, in Mertech, I'll be there at the Startup Alley. I'll be walking the floor, meeting people. So love to connect, and meet people. I love going to trade shows, probing, learning more about, what the challenges are. So come find me at Mertech.
Excellent. And I'll be sure to put all of Khumbu's links and how you can contact Real directly in the show notes. For our listeners out there, I'll be creating a blog post that will help summarize this conversation that I've had today with Rahul. I ask our listeners that are growing every week, thank you so much. You guys have been absolutely amazing. And Morning Sam, Morning Ralph, I think just the growth that we've had is really a testament to restaurant technology professionals wanting to learn more about the different solutions that are out there, the people that are making these solutions happening, and really rising all the boats in the harbor for the technology community. So thank you all. Rahul, this has been awesome. I am so grateful that you've taken the time out of your busy day to speak with me. I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you. This has been a great conversation. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Morning Sam.